Imagine, your absolute favorite local burger joint. You probably just assume they are completely, well, at the mercy of tech giants like Uber Eats or DoorDash to even survive in the digital age.
Right, that's the standard assumption everyone makes.
Exactly. But what if I told you that 70% of diners actually want to bypass those massive apps entirely?
Wow, 70%.
Yeah, 70%. So today we're doing a deep dive into the trillion-dollar shadow industry that's actually making that possible. Our source material for this deep dive is a comprehensive strategy guide focused on a concept you probably use all the time without realizing it, which is launching a food delivery app clone.
It is a totally fascinating space. I mean, it's incredibly crowded, but fundamentally misunderstood by most people. The
Hmm.
mechanics of how these platforms actually operate behind the screen, like how data moves from your thumb to a restaurant kitchen to a delivery driver in literal milliseconds, it's just something most people never get to see.
And that is exactly the mission of our deep dive today. We really want to demystify how the delivery platforms you rely on every single day are built. We're going to explore why the whole industry is shifting toward these white label clones and what it really takes to launch a brand new competitor in the year 2026. Okay, let's unpack this because there is this staggering statistic right at the top of our source guide. By 2027, the online meal delivery market is predicted to generate around $1.65 trillion in revenue.
That's trillion with a T, right?
Trillion with a T, and it's growing at almost 13% every single year.
That revenue number is just massive. But to truly grasp it, you really have to look at the sheer volume of users driving it. So in the United States alone, the baseline is an average of 46 million customers using these online food ordering apps. And projections are pushing that toward 54 million very soon.
Which feels like almost everyone.
It does, but here is some crucial context. The U.S. isn't even the biggest player here. According to the data, Asia is actually the largest online food delivery area globally. As of 2024, approximately 63% of all global users reside there.
Wait, 63%? That completely reframes the American perspective, doesn't it? Like, we tend to think of DoorDash or Uber Eats as the absolute center of the delivery universe, but the actual innovation and scale are happening, halfway across the world.
It really changes the lens. And that massive global trillion-dollar pie is exactly why a strategy guide like the one we're analyzing even exists. There's immense opportunity, and businesses are just desperate for a slice of that pie without having to, well, spend years baking it from scratch.
Right. So if businesses want a piece of the action, we have to go back to that paradox I mentioned at the start. 70% of customers state they would rather place their orders online directly with the restaurant than use a third-party app. They actively want a direct-to-consumer relationship with the people actually cooking their food.
The desire is clearly there. People want to support local businesses, they want to keep the revenue in their neighborhood, and honestly, avoid the inflated service fees of the giant platforms.
But here's the friction, right? Customers want to order direct, but building a custom, highly scalable app like an Uber Eats from scratch is wildly expensive. The guide notes a custom build can easily cost $200,000 or more.
Oh, yeah. Easy.
And it takes up to a full year of development. It's like wanting a custom-built architectural mansion when all you really need to run a delivery business is a high-quality, pre-built spec house. You just need the plumbing and the lights to work so you can move in and start cooking.
That spec house concept captures it perfectly. What's fascinating here is how the tech industry has responded to that exact friction point. They've created what the guide calls a food delivery app clone.
A clone. It sounds so sci-fi.
It does, but to define that term, a clone is essentially a white label, ready-made solution. For anyone unfamiliar with the jargon, white labeling just means you buy a generic functional product and slap your own brand on it. It's like a grocery store putting its own label on a box of cereal that was actually manufactured by a massive third-party facility.
I look at it a bit like buying a car chassis. You are buying the exact same V8 engine and frame as a dozen other companies, but you get to paint the outside, you choose the leather seats, and put your own custom hood ornament on it.
Yes, exactly. And that blueprint approach is incredibly effective. These clones mimic the core architecture and functionality of successful apps. The guide specifically mentions developers modeling these off Grubhub, DoorDash, Postmates, which notably delivers retail products alongside food and caviar.
Caviar is the one that focuses on high-quality gourmet meals from upscale places, right?
Right, upscale restaurants. The clone gives you that proven infrastructure right out of the box.
And the source guide actually breaks down the benefits into two distinct camps. You've got the customers and the restaurants. For you, the customer, a clone app provides the seamless UI you've come to expect. You get a wide variety of cuisines aggregated in one place, total convenience to order from anywhere, and secure payment options ranging from digital wallets to cash on delivery, plus a personalized ordering process.
The benefits for the restaurants, however, are where this model really proves its economic worth. It offers a low-cost setup compared to ground-up custom development.
Which is huge for a small margin business.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's scalable, meaning the server architecture can handle severe spikes in demand like, say, during the Super Bowl without crashing and causing lost revenue.
Nobody wants the app crashing on Super Bowl Sunday.
Exactly. Furthermore, it allows restaurants to take absolute control of their own ordering system and manage operations without having to hire an entire team of extra administrative staff just to answer phones and write down orders.
So if a restaurant wants to reclaim that 70% of customers, they basically need one of these clones. But what does buying a clone actually get you? Let's look at the invisible data handoffs that have to happen flawlessly for that food to reach your door.
It's quite a dance.
Yeah. The source material outlines the workflow, but rather than just reading a list, let's track the actual life cycle of a single order.
The orchestration is quite remarkable. It begins with the user opening the app. They browse cuisines, filter by price, and add items to a cart. The moment they hit checkout and confirm their address, the app's front end sends a complex data payload to a centralized cloud server.
And that server acts like a digital traffic cop, right?
Precisely.
It doesn't just hold the data, it immediately splits it in two directions.
Right.
First, it pings the specific restaurant's dashboard, usually a tablet sitting in a very loud, very busy kitchen. The kitchen staff physically taps the screen to accept the order, which sends a signal back to the server confirming the food is being prepped.
Simultaneously, that central server is communicating with the delivery driver network. It uses GPS integration to locate the nearest available rider, pinging their specific app version with the pickup address and estimated prep time.
So the driver knows exactly when to show up.
Right. The rider accepts, and their live location data starts streaming back to the cloud, which then forwards it to the customer's phone so they can watch the little car icon move down the street.
And the whole process concludes with a fully automated financial loop. The customer confirms receipt, the payment gateway in the app processes the saved credit card, takes out any predefined platform commission, and then disperses the remaining funds directly into the bank accounts of the restaurant and the delivery rider. I mean, it is a massive multi-directional API handshake happening millions of times a day.
Millions of times. It requires an incredibly robust back-end architecture to ensure those handoffs don't drop, especially when you are coordinating thousands of concurrent orders in a single city.
Which brings us to the money. And here's where it gets really interesting, because I want to offer some very strong pushback on the source material's claims about the cost of building this seamless loop.
Oh, the cost estimates.
Yeah. At the beginning of the guide, it heavily promotes the idea that by using a clone, you avoid spending $200,000 to build an app. But then you scroll down to their own estimated cost breakdown table, and it lists the total estimated cost of a clone as anywhere from $90,000 all the way up to $280,000.
Right. The high end of their own estimate for a clone actually exceeds the baseline cost they warned against for a custom app. It is a glaring variance.
How on earth is $250,000 considered a budget-friendly shortcut?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to deconstruct the specific line items the guide provides. The text outlines several major cost components. App development itself is estimated between $40,000 and $100,000.
Just for the code.
Just for the code. That variance depends entirely on whether you are developing natively for iOS and Android separately, which requires two distinct coding languages, or using a cross-platform framework, which is cheaper but sometimes less optimized.
Okay, then they quote $10,000 to $30,000 just for the UI and UX design. That's essentially the interior design of your app, right? Making sure the visual appeal is there, but more importantly, making sure the checkout button is exactly where your thumb naturally rests so a user doesn't get frustrated and abandon their cart.
Precisely. UX design is pure consumer psychology, and good designers charge a premium. Beyond that, back-end development is $15,000 to $40,000. That is the invisible plumbing we just discussed. The server capacity, the data routing, the security protocols.
Which you definitely don't want to skimp on.
No, definitely not. Then database integration is another $5,000 to $15,000, and third-party integrations. So paying for access to payment gateways like Stripe or mapping software like Google Maps APIs. That runs $5,000 to $20,000.
And it doesn't stop once the app is launched. The recurring costs just to keep the lights on are significant. Hosting the servers runs up to $10,000 a year. Maintenance is another $15,000 annually. And finally, marketing, actually buying customer acquisition so people download your clone instead of opening DoorDash, is estimated at $10,000 to $50,000.
It adds up fast.
You add all that infrastructure and marketing up, and you quickly hit that $280,000 ceiling.
With the sticker price potentially still astronomical, the actual trade-off becomes clear. The real saving isn't always in the initial capital. It is in the time to market. The guide's comparison table highlights that custom development demands a much longer timeline due to building every feature from scratch.
Because you're literally reinventing the wheel.
Exactly. A clone allows for radically faster deployment because the foundational code is already written. We're talking about launching in a few weeks or maybe months versus well over a year.
And time is literal money in a market growing at 13% a year. If you wait a year to launch, your potential customer base has already formed habits with a competitor.
Speed is everything here. However, we must impartially note the risks the source mentions. While custom apps are fully customizable and highly scalable, clones have rigid scalability limits.
Because you're stuck in that spec house.
Exactly. They follow the original app's structural logic. If you decide a year from now you want a brand new feature that wasn't in the original clone blueprint, rewriting that foundational code can be incredibly unstable and costly.
Plus, there's the intellectual property risk. With a custom app, you own the code outright. With a clone, you are licensing or adapting an architecture. The guide warns about potential IP issues if the original app's design elements or specific algorithms are patented.
That's a huge legal gray area.
Yeah, and you also face a massive market differentiation problem. You are entering a crowded arena with a product that inherently looks and functions exactly like your biggest competitors.
Which forces companies into a very specific strategy. If $90,000 just gets you the basic chassis, having a working app isn't enough to survive. You have to stand out by engaging in a complete feature arms race.
A feature arms race.
Yes.
The baseline expectations are wildly high now. The guide lists the absolute must-haves just to sit at the table. You need easy login via social media or Apple ID so users don't have to type passwords.
Which nobody wants to do anymore.
Exactly. You need multiple payment options, you need instant push notifications, and obviously real-time GPS tracking. If a new clone lacks even one of these, a user will delete it in 10 seconds.
Those are non-negotiable. But beyond the baseline, certain features are seeing massive investment. The guide highlights a specific statistic that really stood out in-app live chat is expected to grow by as much as 150%.
Which makes perfect sense when you think about the friction of a delayed order. If a driver is lost in a massive apartment complex, you don't want to call a 1-800 customer service number, wait on hold, and have an agent try to relay a message to the driver. You want to open a chat box and text the driver directly, like, hey, I'm the building with the red door. It solves complex hyperlocal problems instantly.
Direct communication is a vital retention tool. The guide also details advanced features that act as true competitive advantages. Order scheduling is a major one, allowing a user to plan a dinner delivery for 6:00 p.m. while they are sitting in a morning meeting.
Oh, that's so convenient.
It is. Detailed order history is another one, which removes the friction of trying to remember the name of a specific dish you loved a month ago. They also highlight QR code integration, which platforms like Grubhub use heavily. Users can scan physical menus at a restaurant to order on their phone, process speedy payments, and easily text referral codes to friends.
My absolute favorite cutting-edge tech in the guide, though, is voice ordering. This isn't just a gimmick, it's a fascinating API handshake. The delivery app integrates with smart home systems like an Amazon Alexa device. You are standing in your kitchen and you just say, hey, reorder my favorite meal.
It sounds so futuristic.
Right. The Alexa device uses natural language processing to understand your intent, pings the clone's API, the API cross-references your user ID with your last order, and fires that payload to the restaurant. You order dinner without ever even looking at a screen. I look at these advanced features like, well, they are basically the digital mint on the pillow.
The digital mint?
Yeah, think about a high-end hotel. The mint on the pillow doesn't fundamentally change the architecture of the room. The core product is still just a bed to sleep in, or in this case, getting a burger delivered to your house. But those tiny, frictionless touches make the experience so pleasant that you build loyalty to that specific app instead of a competitor.
The psychological impact of those features is huge, but we really have to acknowledge the most powerful, unseen feature, driving the entire experience, and that's the matching algorithm itself.
The brains of the operation.
Exactly. The guide explains that the app's routing algorithm is constantly working in the background to solve essentially a complex traveling salesman problem. It optimizes the matching of your specific order, the restaurant's prep time, and the available rider's current trajectory.
Factoring in traffic and everything?
Yes, it calculates traffic patterns and route efficiency to ensure the food arrives hot while ensuring the rider isn't wasting gas or time.
So you are packing voice ordering APIs, QR codes, and these highly tuned routing algorithms into this clone. But despite all that sophisticated tech, launching one of these is not a guaranteed path to riches. We really need to look at the actual market realities, like what happens when David buys a $100,000 clone and goes up against Goliath.
This raises an important question regarding viability. Drawing from the FAQ section of the source guide, the reality is quite harsh. The major disadvantages of clone apps center around the sheer difficulty of competing with market leaders.
Because Uber Eats is just so huge.
Exactly. Clone apps struggle immensely with a lack of brand recognition. Gaining user trust is an uphill battle when well-established apps have practically unlimited financial resources, enormous existing user bases, and deeply entrenched market share.
You could have flawless code, but if Goliath can afford to give out $20 promo codes to every user in a city for a month, you are just going to bleed out. So how do companies compete? Where is the tech heading next to try and find an edge? The guide points out some really fascinating post-pandemic trends shaping the future of these clones.
The most prominent trend is the deep integration of artificial intelligence. AI algorithms are no longer just tracking past orders. They are being built to offer highly predictive, personalized recommendations by cross-referencing external data.
Give me an example of that.
For instance, the app's backend will ping a local weather API. If it detects a sudden drop in temperature and rain, it cross-references that with your historical buying data, realizes you often order hot soup in cold weather, and proactively pushes a notification to your screen.
That is brilliant predictive marketing. The app knows you want ramen before you even look out the window.
Exactly. The source also notes the rise of augmented reality, or AR. This utilizes your phone's camera and spatial mapping capabilities to render a highly detailed 3D model of a menu item right on your physical dining table.
So you can literally see the portion size of a slice of cake before you decide to add it to your cart.
Yes, it bridges the gap between digital menus and physical dining in a really cool way. And finally, there's a massive shift toward hygiene and transparency. Post-pandemic, customers demand visibility into the food supply chain. Apps are now expected to provide incredibly detailed information regarding a restaurant's specific hygiene practices, real-time food safety tracking, and nutritional content.
Which makes total sense. If we can't see the kitchen, we want the data to prove it's clean. And to connect this back to you, the listener, navigating your everyday life, the next time you get a push notification on a random rainy Tuesday suggesting that bowl of your favorite spicy ramen from a place down the street, you now know it isn't magic.
It definitely isn't magic.
There is a highly tuned AI algorithm potentially running on a $100,000 white label clone script that just cross-referenced local weather data with your past behavior to trigger that notification.
It is an incredibly sophisticated ecosystem designed to reduce every possible point of friction between your appetite and your wallet.
So what does this all mean? Let's zoom out. We have explored the massive trillion-dollar trajectory of the global food delivery market. We've deconstructed the invisible data handoffs and the surprisingly steep costs of building these clone apps. And we've seen the futuristic features, from AI weather tracking to voice ordering APIs that are actively battling for your loyalty.
It is a remarkable technological evolution. But I really want to leave you with a final thought to ponder, something that builds on all this data we've unpacked today. We started by noting that 70% of customers truly want to order directly from their favorite local restaurants to support them and keep the money in the neighborhood.
A noble goal for any diner.
But if those local restaurants are increasingly relying on white label clones built by third-party tech developers who actually manage the interface, hold the customer data, and control the AI algorithms dictating what you see on your screen, who actually owns the relationship with you, the diner? Is it the local restaurant cooking your food, or is it the invisible code facilitating your convenience?
That is a fascinating question. Keep asking those big questions. Keep looking a little closer at the digital tools you use every single day, and we'll catch you next time.